Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minute. It's great to have you on board. I'm Carl. Thanks for tuning in. Another really cold day out here in the West in Utah. But the market, you check the market out. Futures have rolled over here recently. We've seen the futures drop off pretty significantly. You had uh, the market reversed and went almost positive for a little while, and then just recently has sold off about 7 points or so. That puts the market down nine. Couple points in fair value there, but breaking the 1780 level, and we talked about this yesterday, maybe a couple days, a few days in a row now. And looking at the level, we're talking about the S&P, all right, but this is a chart pattern. It'd be the old head and shoulders pattern, right? Double top. There's different things you could call this, but overall, it's the level for this to confirm would be the 1780 mark. And if a break right here, if this held like this today, then it'd be pretty bearish for the stock market. But think about this. There's a lot of things that can happen here within the next week. We got we got the the bills going through the Senate and the House, right? What if that budget deal doesn't go through? What if they say no, 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 we're not going to do that? It looks like it will, but what if they don't? And then we got the Fed meeting next week, the FOMC meeting. That's going to be announced on Wednesday. That's the big threat right now in the market is expectations that they might start tapering like next week or the week after that. What if they don't? What if they move the goalpost down the road a little bit? That could cause some major upside here in the market. So there's a lot of volatile things that can happen here within the next week in the market. But overall, this is a pretty bearish looking sign for the most part. They're fairly accurate here. There's a little bit of a pattern right over here, kind of a mutant head and shoulders pattern, whatever you want to call it. But that would be the level broken. It broke through there. And there's been other times, lately these pullbacks for the most part just up and then right back over. But a little bit of topping action, a little bit of break like that is pretty bearish for the market. One of the areas that's getting hit the hardest today is consumer goods. You look at the bright red here. For some reason my scroll wheel doesn't work on this, but the bright red here, healthcare, Merck. There's one of my top three from yesterday. Altria, it's getting hit. It's getting hit with that whole group. The whole group's going down. Yesterday, this was outperforming the market big time. Today, there's a sell going on here in consumer goods and parts. You can see technology getting a hit. Oracle was downgraded by two different firms this morning. That's why they're down pretty big today. But Cisco, all through the services area. Financials are pretty kind of holding their own today. Nothing big there, and that's a positive for the market. Industrial goods holding their own. Some basic materials. Some of the gold stocks were down pretty big. McDonald's is still reversing pretty hard out there in the market today. So that's what's going on with the overall market right now. It's and when I saw the market open weak this morning, it opened, after a day like that where you had a pretty big sell, for the market just to stay flat, is a little bit concerning. Same when you have these big day runs up, if the market stays flat, for a lot of times it's fairly bullish. A big day's down and it stays down the next morning is a little bit bearish. It doesn't always work that way, but and it has rolled over here. We'll see what it does into the close. The buy the dippers for a minute there this morning when the market went back up above 1780 and turned positive just slightly. I thought the buy the dippers. I thought somebody woke them up, but I think they've gone back to sleep at least so far today. So watch this market. As far as our position in Tesla, it's been holding up pretty well. It hasn't reacted to the market selling at all. It's off the highs, but it's holding up pretty good. Up $3 and nice. Now, so stocks that I'm looking at, and I talked about these this morning. I talked about them in chat. Sorry, you're right, Max. Dang it. Uh, Colgate is one stock that I've been watching, and it's a trend rider. And it's been ranging here. It's got about the $2 range. It's breaking into the lower band, which we wanted to see here. And this a break here could put this down towards the 62, longer term 61 level here, and that's a nice trend rider bear signal. With I know I need to zoom that in for you, make it a little bit better for you. You can see the RSI breaking 50. That's one of the things we want to see. The bands are expanding without having to go and show you the Bollinger Band width. You can see the bands expanding there and going in lower band. If it closed right here, it would be a very bearish signal. Okay, I like that setup. And then another setup I've been watching today is on T-Mobile. And T-Mobile, same kind of thing. We've got about $1 channel right here. It's breaking out, running into the lower band today. It's a pretty bearish move. It's about $1 or so away from the 7, which isn't too bad. I'm going to watch the volumes here today. So far, the volumes are pretty decent. Get rid of this thing right there, and we'd have a better look at those volumes. But I'm just looking at the little green line. That green line is a 50-day average of volume. You can see it's not too far below that right now, which would just put this prime for a run, probably down to about the $24 level. And for this stock, another $1.50 lower is a nice move. Okay. So there's some of the stocks I've been watching. Some of the other ones I've been watching today, and we've been looking for these type to break out for a while, is FedEx. Now it's not really reacting to anything today. And then U.S. Steel, same thing. It's just still trapped in the channel. Tight channel there, tight Bollinger Bands, but when it gets down to the bottom, it doesn't want to break through, doesn't want to get up really much past 27 either. So just stuck there. When they break, the longer these things sit like this in these little channels, the bigger the move is likely to be, the bigger the breakout's likely to be, either to the upside or the downside. But we just got to let them show it, give us a shot at showing us their hand. I mean, you could go through some of the stocks that are selling off, Johnson and Johnson, and then you look at Hershey. Now Hershey's also an interesting one too. It's got a descending triangle pattern with. Sorry, I just got talking and I can see them all in my head, but I should show those out. So descending triangle pattern, you can see it. The first one right through here broke. It's still kind of in that range. It's a little bit away from the 7 at this point, but there's better setups. I'm really cherry picking today. DuPont, another stock. See DuPont here, the bands are expanding. You got same thing up here. You got the Bollinger Band, sorry, the RSI breaking through 50 there, dropping into the lower band. It's right on a pretty, big round number there at 60. If I got some good volumes here today and it's pushed lower below that $60 level, then there's good chances this thing's going to run down, probably into the let's see about where that first, probably towards the 58.5 mark. Not a bad looking setup right there. Yeah, thanks, Frank. Red Hat. We looked at this one yesterday. And the Bollinger Bands are just intense, how they were dropping like that. Just a drastic drop. You can see what happens last time you got these drastic drops over in this range. And when the bands got tight, you saw a nice breakout. Well, they're really tight again. Really, I mean, the stock has been channeling about $1 or so, 47 to 46. But this breakout here on this tight bands could push this down towards 44, even the 43 range. If that breaks down at the bottom here, we got to let it show us its hand first. It might. The Bollinger Band, you can see that they're just kind of flat today. But that could easily change. You get a push down in here, it could start to expand. And I'd like to see this settle down another day or so and then move into the band, whichever way it goes. Would be a nice breakout. And from here, a break to the upside. I mean, a fill of the gap would be 53. I think that would be pushing it. I think towards 50 would be an initial price target on a breakout like that. Yeah, and nice looking. Okay, Darren, sounds like you're back. Other stocks today, Facebook got added to the S&P 100 and the 500. They're up. They're holding their own. It's up 3%. It's been about that level all day. It's pushed higher, pushed a little bit lower, but overall, it's staying about right there. IWM. Okay, this is down. Let's zoom in on this a little bit here. So there's a little bit of support. I always give it the round numbers and not worry about the cents and things like that. But 109 area has been some support back through this area. It broke it one day, but shot right back through the next day. That's a push right here. If this dropped through 109 into that lower band, would be very bearish. 107 likely the next area for this thing to go if you happen to see that today. Yeah, and that's could also, bleed over to the S&P. In the S&P, looking at this technically, there we are in the lower Bollinger Band, and the RSI breaking through 50. Let me see that Bollinger Band width. It's increasing. So, technically, a trend right or bear signal. And a move lower here. One thing with the S&P, it doesn't like these bands. It doesn't like to stay in very long at all. This right here, I remember when we were talking about these over here. This area right through there. How the S&P, most of the times, 2 days, possibly 3 days, it hit 4 days in a row here in the upper band. It doesn't happen very often to see that. Over here, it's just kind of slightly trading below it for a few days and then before it started to roll over. But it doesn't like it. See, it's 3 days in and then one pop back up. Doesn't like the bands too much, but I just expect a lot of volatility right now because of all of the things that can happen. If everything goes as planned, and if they do taper, and we talked yesterday too, is about how there was even articles written saying, oh yeah, tapering's priced in, and it was almost like, okay, bring tapering on. Then all of a sudden it looks like it might be a reality, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, taper? let's rethink that. And the market's it's nervous again. It's just causing some uncertainty, and whenever you get uncertainty in market, that's where it's going to sell. Okay, yesterday's top three, we had Ford. And there it is pushing down. It's nice. It's over 1% down right now. And then EMC. And EMC is gapped down and just kind of holding it right there. Twitter is, just read the chat, so it got me saying Twitter here. But EMC is gapped lower and just staying there. A push below that 23.25 mark is what you'd want to see here today. The volumes are just extremely light there. And the last one was Altria. And this is just getting a sell. Had a great looking signal yesterday. And just selling along with the rest of that group is getting hit today. Close here. I definitely would not stay in. That's a clear close below the 7. If it's here, I would pop right back out. Bristol Myers was talked about a little bit today, and you can see this top three from, it's been a while. Oh, it's right here. Top three from the 3rd of December. And I had this big day here where it shot up above the 7, right? But today it's pretty bearish action the last couple of days. If you look at this kind of starts it. You get a push up and then a sell off in the close. The next day just flat, and then it pushes back below. And today you can see it went up and hit the 7 today and turned around and went down. Now this is coming up on a big price point there of 50. 50 is going to be the tester. If it can get through 50, we're talking probably towards the 80, sorry, 48, 47. That'd be a push, a stretch for it, but it's really 47 is the biggest level of support down below it. You can see how many times it hit it June, September, and then so right here, right now, that's the only level I'd be a little bit concerned about is 50. It's just one of those big numbers, but it pushed through that lower band today and pushing through 50. The volumes were pretty good. It's likely headed a lot lower. NUE gap down. Well, it closed below the 7 yesterday. Today it's gapped. It's holding 51. And you can see that 51 didn't quite hit it here, but you look at it over in this range. 51's kind of been a little bit of support for it. Resistance support here, a little bit of resistance over here when it didn't get to it, down and been right back above it. We're retesting that level again. A break at 51 would be pretty bearish. Hold a 51 and get back up through the 7 there, I'd get bullish again. But right now it's still below the 7. If you're in a trade here, then yeah, I mean, if closing down here, it's a tough call. Yesterday, for me, with on a clear close like that, is below the 7 is enough. But if you're still in it, watch this 51 level. A break here would be pretty bearish. If it can start bouncing back up, that's what you're after. Bouncing back up off that level. Oracle, we looked at that. Wow, it's off the lows, and they got 2 downgrades today. Downgraded by Morgan Stanley and RBC Capital. Okay, well, let's look at some stocks. Anybody got some stocks they want to look at? I want to take a look at that. Yeah, as far as IWM, if it comes down to the reaction low and breaks back through it, it would be pretty bearish in the short term. Chipotle Mexican Grill. You know, it's that time of day, and I'm getting kind of hungry. So this dropped below the 7 yesterday and dropping below 520. When stocks drop below the 7, and you know what we think about that, it just changes the bullishness. It doesn't mean the big, nice uptrend here is over. It just changes the short-term perspective for it. A run lower today would be pretty darn bearish because it goes up, hits the 7, and I can draw something in. So let's say it happened to look like this today at the close, where it's coming down towards the 510 area, 515 area, and pushing back down off of 520 after going up and hitting the 7. Would be pretty bearish for it. But right now it's trying to hold. It dipped below 520. It's retesting the level. It's a tough call to go bullish on it. Too early to go bearish. I'd need a stronger breakdown. If you got a stronger breakdown here, where after hitting the 7 and pushing and running lower back towards that the lower Bollinger Band, that would be ultra bearish. And you can see the RSI had broken through 50. It's kind of flat right now. I mean, if you look in here at the RSI, see how it's kind of flat. But as you get this thing to roll over and go negative today, that RSI will pop down. It's in the middle of the day right now, so. Yeah, Southwest Airlines was upgraded by Bank of America to a buy. So a little bit of a pop on Southwest here today. Doing a little bit better than the other airlines at this point. For me, to enter anything here, I'd like to see this close towards the highs. It had some news here. If it can close back up towards the highs, That'd be very bullish, and it's likely probably to run up towards the $20 area. But even at close where it's at right now, you can see there's some. It's hit this for 3 days in a row. It's like there's some sellers right up there above it. There are some sellers there above it. Now the volumes are good, so you got a shot here. Closes towards the high on some high volumes, then that's what's going to likely take this higher. But just be cautious if it doesn't close up there towards the highs, it might not go too far. With Win up there at 180, had a big run. It's just some consolidation up here. Bullish consolidation would be just small moves, like today, yesterday, just small moves down, if maybe a little bit up, and let that 7 catch up with it. Right now, there's nothing bearish. You might get a little pop down here towards a 7, but this has been a nice run, and it might give us another shot. If it does this for a few more days, just a little small consolidation like this, the 7 catches up with it, so I'll draw it in there. So let's say the 7 keeps running up. Wouldn't it be fun if you could do this for real, and on a real chart and make money? Just draw your own money in there. Like, forgive me, but that's kind of what the feds are doing, right? It's kind of making it. So if you get a move like this, where this consolidates back to the 7 and pushes up through that 180 mark, off that 7, then you got, probably play it up towards the mid 180s. That would be nice to see. But so far, it's just normal consolidation. Okay, so nice chart here. And thanks, Merlin. Okay, so what we're seeing here, you got the RSI breaking through 50. This has been some tight consolidation. About a $2 range here between the lows and the highs, around 51. And it doesn't make 53 during the day. I mean, it does during the day, but can't hold it. So about a $2 range there, but this jumps into that lower Bollinger Band. There's a good chance that this thing could break through the 50 level and come down. The next decent level around 47, but I'd give it a couple dollars. I wouldn't go too aggressive. But the thing that I like about these is see that these nice runs like this, nice runs, when they're over, it's like if there was institutions buying in, they're like, all right, this is nice, let's get out. Down they go. And that could be the case. If this get this push down here into that lower band, if the volumes equal yesterday or if a little bit more, right now there might appear to be a little bit light, but it's a pretty bearish signal. 50 is going to be the only level it's going to have to get through. But if it gets good volumes today, it's going to suggest it could get through that level. But watch it. This could be one of those. You look at it early in the day like this, and by the end of the day, what if it closes right here at 51 again? It's still in that channel. Right now, it looks pretty decent, but watch it into the close. If it closes back up here, it might go back up to 52, 53. So just watch this thing into the close. Good chart. Yeah, I'm just reading through some of these here. You're welcome. Let's go back and review Tesla. So it's at the highs. I hear the fish are biting. And one of you guys, and thank you very much, sent me a nice picture of a rare fish that was caught off the eastern coast. Never fished on the east coast. I usually fish out on California way. But thanks for the picture. You know who you are. If you guys got pictures of fish, I'd love to see them. It's tough for me to get out this time of year. It's I like to fly fish, and the line freezes up. Well, the eyelets freeze up on the pole. But Charles Schwab. Yeah, this is getting interesting, JC. The Bollinger Band's still contracting here. You got to watch that, which suggests there might not be a break to the upside. But you're right. If this continues to consolidate like this, watch and see which way it goes. But overall, the trend's been up. There's not really any type of divergences here. Uh, the Bollinger Band width is just showing you the Bollinger Band. It's going down when they're contracting. It's going up when they're expanding. Okay, but watch and see which way it goes. Right now, it might not happen, but you get another day or two, maybe early next week sometime. You get a push here above 25 into the upper Bollinger Band, then you got something, and that's where you'd want to look to enter. But watch it and wait for it to happen. You could try to anticipate it here, but I'd rather play it a little bit on the safe side and wait for that break. Yeah, flies bounce off the ice. Well, I'm talking stream fishing when I go out fly fishing this time of year. That's when I fly fish. It's mainly streams. I take my kids and try to teach them on some local ponds, and that's fun. So Twitter, yeah, I mean Twitter is just starting to show some technicals here, and these stocks, I always let them go. I let them go for 2 3 months. Let them build something so I can start to see what's going on. And Facebook, same thing. I let it go for a little while, and everybody remembers what happened to Facebook. And then all of a sudden, caught some eyes. It got down to a price point that was appetizing for a lot of the institutions, and there it went. But same thing, with Twitter or Hilton, and these are big companies, and you'd think they'd been public a long time ago, but just coming on like this, you just don't know. I used to, when I was day trading, I'd come in and play some of these, and they were talk about a roller coaster. That was what you call uh, put very little on the trade and hope it goes your way because they're so fast. But as far as buy and hold them, I couldn't argue it. If you like Hilton and you think they're worth a lot more than that, I couldn't argue it at all. This thing might go up to 20, I mean 30, $40. But for me, as more of a technical trader rather than a long-term investor, I always wait for the charts. I want to see it on the chart, and then I'm going to play options on it. Now, as far as teaching my kids, though, they got to learn stocks first before I'm ever going to go anywhere with them with options. I would totally agree with you, AK. It's warm down there, and my brother caught a big, beautiful sailfish down in Cancun a long time ago, and I wanted to head down that way. But no, I love that place. It's a good place. But where I'd rather go, AK, is up where you live in the summers. Just bring some nice mosquito repellent and some baseball bats to keep the bears away, and you're good. No, you need more than a baseball bat. Okay, let's look around and see what else. If anybody else has any stocks, just put those in there. I want to see, just kind of take a tour around the market here. USO, it's bullish consolidation still. We talked about this, and I know a lot of you got into it right over here, and you got a nice surge of it. Look, you had a little bit of a dragonfly at the top. It actually was some follow through there. There was no follow through here on the doji. Not one of the better stocks for candle patterns, but I always look at those things. At this point, it's back to the 7. A push higher. You get a push higher off of the 35 level here, up through that 7. It's going to keep going. How far could it go? Really, the next level is about that 36.5 mark. There's not much there above the 35.5. Very little there, but it could run another $1.50 or so. That's right, Max. Got to have the Fed step in to keep the bears away. And it's done that for a long time, hasn't it? Just reading through here some of the chats. You know, I couldn't argue Facebook calls, and there's a lot of window dressing now. It's in part of the S&P. There's a lot that can happen with Facebook, and that's some pretty big news to get added like that. Yeah, there's it seems like there's always somebody somewhere that knows something about a particular stock, and some of those people have wound up in jail. I think I don't remember the name, but there is a big hedge fund manager. Um, I don't remember the name, but of Indian descent. I forget the name, but yeah, he had a whole ring apparently where apparently he had insides throughout a bunch of different companies, and he got taken down. As far as Frank, as far as these Tesla holds like this, we're gonna keep that definitely hold on Tesla. Martha Stewart, yeah, Martha Stewart as well. But we're gonna look. I'm looking for a new challenge trade. I got some ideas in mind. We're gonna see what they look like. Colgate is one of them. TMUS is another. Watch them into the close and see what they look like near the close. I don't know if we're gonna. Not City. US still. I don't know if we're gonna. Probably not gonna happen today. There. It's still one that I've been watching. Um, Red Hat. I don't know if that's gonna happen today either. That's the one we started looking at yesterday on those wild contracting Bollinger Bands. Well, they've kind of mellowed out the bands, but they're just not the right type of signal that we're after. DuPont is another one I'm going to watch. If a breakdown here below the $60 mark would be pretty bearish for DuPont. You could see a nice run here as well. Okay, so I've got a lot in the lot we're watching out there. I'm going to keep going through my stocks, keep going through some scans that we've got. And you've seen the scans. I'm going to go through and look to make a new trade in the close today. eHouse China Holdings. Nice looking chart. It's one that I have not traded here, but I mean all the positive indications of this thing going higher. Now we're looking at hindsight here, but just for some see this area where it jumped away right here. It jumps away from the 7. Now this is that bullish consolidation you hear me talk about. It jumps way away and then just kind of goes sideways, slightly down, hits the 7 and takes off like that. That's a pretty big day up. It jumps way away from the 7 again, but it's a strong signal. Look at the volumes. One of the things that can show you the strength, you get big volumes on a trend rider or vibe signal. Uh, that just puts the odds more and more in your favor, and it backs up what it's backing up. It's breaking through new highs, and the volume is what it takes to break these highs and these levels of resistance and hold the levels, and it's still going. I mean, it had a big day yesterday. Look at the volume, but it did nothing. It went down, retested the 7, and by the end of the day, turned and ran up. Still lower than the day prior, but today's just more follow through. If I had calls right here, yeah, no need to get out. Man, look at the volume today. Today is almost as much as the last couple of days. By the end of the day, it's likely to be higher than that, and could just keep running. Now it's getting a little ways from the away from the 7, but it doesn't mean it has to end. Sometimes they move away from the 7 and stay there for a little while before some consolidation. But overall, this is a very bullish looking chart. As far as entering today, it'd be chasing it in my book since it's so far away from the 7. What that does when you chase, right? You're buying more expensive options unless you're buying different options, but the option is a little bit more expensive. Now the thing's run $2 from where the first signal was, or a solid dollar from where you might have got in a couple days ago. Um, it just, is it going to keep running? It could, but it's one of those. It's look for a better setup with a fresher entrance on it. But oh man, if I had calls there, I'd just be watching them and letting them go. Okay, just reading through some of the chats again. Tesla up about $3. It's about where it was when I got on here, so things are looking fine there. Okay, so one of the things as traders that, and I hear it a lot. I mean, I've taught a lot of people over the years, and I hear this a lot. And as people that come into the marketplace, we all make the same type of. I mean, we're all human, and we all kind of think the same way, right? And one of the things that happens is get into a trade, it's going good, and then you stay in it, and then you're like, well, when do I get out? You know, or if it goes against you, it's like, well, when do I get out? How do you know when to get out? How do you know when to take a profit? How do you know when to to stay in the trade? How do you know when it hits your stop? And one of the things that we like to do, and you see us, is plan the trade out before we get in. It's as good as we can get it. So we'll always put a stop on, and then we're always going to put a price target. Now, if it starts moving our direction and we start making some money, hey, the price target, it can change. We might take it early. We took it a little bit early on win. We took an 80% gain on win. Nice gain. Don't look back. Could we have held it longer? Well, hindsight, heck yeah. We could still be holding win. But hey, and so not looking back. And also a point to where it's, if it goes against us, where we're going to get out. And sticking to that is probably one of the most important things you can do as a trader, is sticking to it. Now, it's not always that easy, and we've talked about how it's not that easy sometimes. There are times when you got to stop. Let's say it's on the 7, and I'm just throwing out something here. This was not a trade, but let's say we had calls right here. We put a stop on the 7, and then it gaps lower. There are times that can happen, so everything changed right there. Everything changes. Like, well, now what do I do? It's way past the stop. Do I get out and take the big loss, or do I hope it comes back? And that's another decision that as traders is kind of tough. Yeah, human nature says, oh man, let's hope it's going to come back, because that's a pretty gap down. It might come back. Yeah, the other side, if it continues to go down, well, your position might go worthless. So that can happen to you. And it's not always that easy. If you've been in trades like that, we've been in trades like that, and if you've been in those trades, it's okay. Well, now do I get out? Do I hold on? Hope it comes back? It becomes that type of a decision. Not only that, the value went from, I mean, let's say we had $1,000 up in this range of value, and all of a sudden now we got 400. Okay, so the risk just changed. Now, really, you got 400 at risk now. That's all you've got. So I'm risking 400, but if it comes back, I might be able to make some of that up. So it's this mental game when it gets to that point, and it's not always an easy call when that happens. You can also have, let's say that we are in this trade right here and we had puts, and it gaps lower like that. And you're like, sweet, do I take it today? You know me, I'm not going to argue if you take a gain. Taking a gain on a big gap, let's say that we were in over here on this big gap here. Well, one thing that happens as option traders, is that implied volatility will spike on you on those days. It spikes, and so the value of your options spiked, not to mention you had puts, and the value spiked. So taking it on a big gap like that, in my opinion, is not a bad thing to do. You can get out, and even if it keeps going, don't worry about it. If stocks, if you get out, if you take the loss, if you get out with a gain, and it keeps running, just try not to worry about it. Really, there's nothing you can do, and you guys told us nothing you can do, and just move on to the next trade. It's kind of wasteless energy, thinking, oh, we could have done this, could have done that, after the fact, right? Just look for the next setups, and it's going to keep if you can do that, it's going to keep your mind much more open to what you're seeing on the charts, and not trying to think you've got to learn something from every trade. Because most of the time, if you got some pretty good basics down and technicals and things like that, most of the time the technicals are going to work for you, and there's always the fundamental moves that will push things against you, or I mean, like Like Altria, right? Beautiful bullish signal yesterday, and all of a sudden there's a mass sell-off today in the group, and down they come. How do you see that coming? You don't. It's the market. Technicals, what they do is put the odds in your favor if it all lines up. And you've heard me train about the trend riders and the vibes. If they all line up, it puts the odds in our favor, not all the odds. Putting the odds in our favor is how Vegas and Macau and all these areas, that's how they make billions of dollars. There's people that can beat the odds from time to time, but overall, the casinos know they've got the most. I'm sure they've got most brilliant mathematicians. They know the odds down to a T. They get so many people in the door, they're going to make so much money on every one of them, and then the few that you hear about to make the money keep the game alive. If everybody lost, no one would go. But the fact that there's always that chance that you can win keeps keep people coming back. There you go. Okay. First Solar. Hey, you know that's been going down, but a little bit of a pop today. And I've been reading the oh, you probably about calls on this, didn't you, Max? Catching this pop today. I wouldn't be surprised. You're pretty good at that. Hey, Max, have a good one. Mastercard had the big news yesterday, and down they come. You know, 0.9%, not a huge move. I'll looking forward to trading the guys later on when they do that 10-to-1 split. It's going to bring it down. What the normal pattern is, we got some big time over botness going on here. Some consolidation. What to look for here on these that jump big time, pull back like that? Look for where that first round of selling ends. Look for where it ends. Let's say it happens to end at 870, so it goes flat, for a little while along this area, and all of a sudden the 7 catches up with it. So let's draw the 7 in there. So it kind of goes flat around the 780 area. Then all of a sudden you get a move here and a push back up like that off of that area after some consolidation. Well, now you got something. It's aggressive to go puts at this point. There was a bearish candle right there. There was a major gap up. Could have happened. It's aggressive, but I know a lot of people that do that. We wouldn't get that aggressive unless we had some profits, some good profits to work with. Then we can take a small portion of what we got and go out and put it into more aggressive trades like that. Okay. DDD. So we had well, let me bring this into the vibe. So yesterday, it was a bull vibe entrance. I like to see these things get through past highs, and it just barely did. But then you saw the big sell yesterday. Pretty scary. It came right to the 7. To me, you get a push here above 80, almost to the highs, to the open of yesterday, then you got something. But watch it. If it closes below 80 again, it's not bearish, but it's just not saying it might not be ready to get through 80 yet. But overall, the fact that it's holding these levels and keeps trying like that, it puts the odds of a break is likely to happen. Look through some of the gold area, see what's happening here. Earlier was a pretty big sell-off in gold. Yeah, GLD's way down. Rand gold. Now there's a little, not suggesting to play this, but right there, Little dragonfly. Let's gap down a dragonfly. What you look for here, an aggressive trader could, if it closed like this, it would be some calls. That's pretty aggressive, but you always got to see what's happened here in the past. Well, there's, it's off your chart. Let me get this back to where you can see it, what I'm looking at here. There. Right over here, there's a little dragonfly down here at the bottom. Dragonfly, it didn't really do anything. Just look and see how accurate these are, these type of patterns. Not really anything down here. Now there's a dragonfly towards the top. It's not perfect, but it's got the same principles, which actually worked. Right here is an abandoned candle pattern. We talked a little bit yesterday. It's one of Jeff's favorite. He's got a couple of them. Let me back out. Oops, wrong button. Got a couple of them right here, and they're fairly accurate. And the best three of them. One right here. The abandoned patterns. See, it gaps up, and then the next day gaps down. Very bearish, and they're quite accurate. Same thing here. Gaps up, gaps back down. You can see it's got follow through. Got one 2 days ago. Gaps up, gaps back down, and you're getting the follow through today. It's too late to play anything there, but that little pattern right there is going to be interesting to watch. I don't know if I'd trust it because even up here, there's a nice gravestone, which at a bottom like that would suggest some short-term strength, and it just kind of went sideways before rolling back over. So not the most trustworthy candles. But if you happen to get an abandoned pattern to where, say, tomorrow, just change the color on this, but let's say tomorrow it gaps up, something like that. And then you got an abandoned pattern. And the odds of this going higher raise pretty dramatically. But this big steep downtrend like that, you'd have to have a really nice looking bullish setup after these type of gaps. But that would be some positive. That'd be a positive for this. Gold's going to be pretty volatile with the budget news and stuff like that. Williams Companies. Williams Companies had some news on it today, and it wasn't the best news. Let me, yeah, it was taken out of the S&P 100 and replaced by Facebook. It's pretty bearish. Doesn't mean it's gonna. Let me go back here to a trend writer, bring in the bands here. Yeah, it's coming down here to the lower band, so this would be one just to be cautious as far as puts, because you see the bands here are contracting and kind of going sideways, and it's right on a level of support for it as well. 34 is pretty decent level. And when the bands are contracting like that, going sideways, what it does is tells you that there could be some support here. When they're contracting and it's going towards the top, it tells you there can be resistance. So there's some support here at 34. I wouldn't get over anxious yet to buy puts. And to me, I wouldn't go buy calls either. It just, you got to let it. It's going to break down in the lower band, and the bands are going to start expanding. Then you might have something to the downside. But at this point, maybe some consolidation around here, and then we'll see which way it goes. If it goes to bounce back up, so if you can start to see some bounce back up here, it could come up here to the lower band, to the middle band here. If it breaks the middle band, it could come all the way back up here to the upper band. But right now, I just watch that 34 area and see what the stock does. Huge call volume. Yeah, for me, I just need a little bit more confirmation to see if that 34 is going to hold. If it does, again, odds of this coming back to 35 raise dramatically, because usually when they bounce off these, let me show you here. If it bounces off the bottom, typically they're going to go up towards the center band. Now, it wasn't an easy ride, but here it bounced off the bottom. It was kind of all over the place. It went to the band. And normally, if they break the center band, they go to the upper band, which it hits. And here, it hits the upper band, sells off, breaks the lower band, and it went to sorry, breaks the center band there, the 20-day, and headed to the lower band. So that center band, I mean, it does it. This stock does it like every time. Hits the bottom, breaks the center band, and there it goes to the upper band. It does it every time. So if it can bounce up from here and it's close enough to that band in my book, and good chances it's coming back up to this level, breaks through the 20, back up here towards 36. But a break lower at this point would be pretty darn bearish for it. And if the big boys do exit here based on them not being in, that's still yet to be seen. Really, the volume's not all that big. It was big yesterday, probably on some of the rumors and things like that. But today, where it's not all that heavy so far, it's still going to be over the 50-day average of volume there. But okay, everybody, I'll be on chat with you the rest of the day. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be on chat. Got an email as well, carl@traderminute.com. But we'll talk to you guys in a few. Thanks. Bye-bye.